Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Assam Reacts. Today we're exploring the wonderful and ever-changing landscape of Morrowind, but we are rolling it back to the Third Era. As an outlander arriving in Seydanin, you probably aren't familiar with the local craft brews of the Dunmer, and you probably don't know much about what they import. Given that the list of drinks isn't super long, I don't see a need to really break them into large sections. Most of the drinks available are distillates, but we do have a few fermented drinks as well. Given that Morrowind is influenced by Asian aesthetics, I think it would make sense to assume that sake and other rice spirits would take the forefront. But without further ado, let's get to it. We begin our day at Ariel's trade house, where we can purchase almost everything on our list. Ariel has Cyrodiilic Brandy, Flynn, Grief, Mazda, Shin, and Sujamma in stock. Our cheapest option, coming in at 10 drakes, is Mazda, a beverage made from fermented salt rice. Given the deep traditions of Morrowind, I'm inclined to think that this is sake. Though, in a modern sense, a rice-based beer could also work. If we're assuming that it is sake, the first thing that springs to my mind, and a relatively inexpensive and pervasive offering, is Kikisui Fuganachi Genshu sake, in the yellow can. If it's rice lager, then I would say it's Orion. Another potential is Makegoli, which is a Korean rice wine that is cloudy with a soft effervescence. For another 10 drakes, you can also purchase a bottle of Shin, a wine made from comberries. I struggled with this for a while until I decided that the leaves look like plum leaves. In identifying a real-world option for the comberry, I was able to make the connection to plum wine, my grandmother's favorite drink when we would get Chinese food. This is no doubt umeshu, and our options there are Kinsen plum wine or choya umeshu. Personally, I prefer the choya, but overall I'm not a huge fan of plum wine. Hopping up the price scale, we have Sujamma coming in at a whopping 30 drakes. This is a Dunmeri distillate. According to the ESO wiki, it is made from barley, comberry, and lemon. I think that salt rice would also play a part here, and that each town, village, or homestead would make it in a slightly different fashion. I am confident that Sujamma is shochu, which can be made from a variety of ingredients such as barley, sweet potatoes, rice, buckwheat, and sugar. I've only had a couple of shochus in my life, but one that stands out to me is Takara Yokkaichi Kome, which is rice-based. Keeping to this price point, we come to Grief, a comberry brandy available for 30 drakes. Since I have already established that comberries and plums share similarities, I can safely say that this is plum brandy. You can of course find umeshu brandy, or we can take a more European approach and grab a bottle of Slivovica, which is actually one of my favorite things. Cyrodiilic Brandy makes a return in Morrowind, and for the lovely price of 79 drakes. I won't, however, bore you with the long list that I provided in the last video. Because of its status as an import beverage, we can assume that it is something with a little more name recognition behind it. Something like the Hennessy XO Cognac. Flynn is an imperial whiskey, and an expensive one at that. It rests at an incredible 100 drakes. This is something to save for when you're trying to flirt with Caius Cosades. Given that this is imperial whiskey and that it has an insane price point, I was hoping for some cool imported bottling from a strange region that doesn't normally produce whiskey. But then I realized that Cyrodiil grows corn, wheat, and barley. I feel like it is a decent whiskey with an overinflated price tag, and I'm not saying it's pappy. I really think it is a bottle of Willet Single Barrel 9-year, something that can range in price from about $260 USD to over $1,000 based on the market. Journeying north towards Balmora for our next beverage, be sure to avoid Bosmer falling from the sky. When we finally cross over into the lovely slough town of Balmora, we need to find our way into Hlalu Manor. After a furtive glance, we have our hands on vintage brandy, which retails for an insane 500 drakes. Now, brandy of this caliber is definitely out of my regular budget, and the most expensive brandy I have ever purchased was a 1990 Chateau de la Cuille by Armagnac, and that was $350. Still far below what the vintage brandy of Morrowind is selling for. So I'm thinking it's something along the lines of De Rosa 1967 Domaine de Bel Air Bas Armagnac. After making our way to Kuhl, and catching a ride to Solstheim with Svir, we can hunt our next drink on this pub crawl, Nord Mead. Once on the Isle of Solstheim, we need to make our way to Thirsk Mead Hall. Talking to Ulfrun, we'll be able to purchase our Nord Mead. In the cold environment of Solstheim, keeping bees happy is certainly a challenge, and it reflects on the price tag for this bottle. Nord Mead is available for 80 drakes. Now, I can't think of any mead that hits a price tag remotely close to that, so I will suggest just a simple Ribe Mjod or Skjalda Mjod from Dansk Mjod. And at the price point of Morrowind, you could afford to grab both bottles. Returning to Vardenfell, we have a few options for our final purchase. The easiest and most expensive method is to head to Caldera and check in with that little scamp, Creeper, who sells ancient Dagoth brandy for a coin purse ripping 1,500 drakes. If you're feeling emboldened by your Nord Mead, you can venture into Aldsotha, Habenbeis, Kunire, Odirnaran, Punsa Bandit, Tel Uvirith, or Tuku Chapal. And if you want to speak with him, one can be acquired from Dagoth Endis, the Ash Vampire. Now, for this budget buster brandy, I think something like Imperial Collection Grand Champagne de Cognac in Onyx Egg reflects properly the might and power that once belonged to the 6th house. As always, thanks for watching. And if you want to have me curate a special wine pairing for your next family dinner, date night, corporate retreat, or wedding, use the QR code on the screen, or click the link below. What mystical land should I travel to next on my pub tour of video games?